And I did my absolute best to destroy that company, which I did very effectively. Annihilate. Like every salesperson left because I was a jerk and an asshole. It was a really painful experience because I had to look really, really deep into my soul. Like, what the hell did I do wrong? So it was very intentional after that.
Welcome to the Midgame Mindset. Join us as we dive into the pivotal moments that shape today's top sales and marketing leaders, RevOps innovators, and entrepreneurs. This is where grit meets growth and the game changes for good. If you find value in this conversation, be sure to share it with another growth leader who would enjoy it. And now, let's get to the show. Welcome to the Midgame Mindset. I'm your host, Rich Bishop, and today's guest is Mario Krivokapic. And I know I Americanized that name, but all right, we're getting the thumbs up. We're good there. Mario is a CEO coach and revenue architect. He's the co-host of two podcasts, one called 2.5 Salesmen and the other one called Game of Funds. He's also the author of the book Still Underrated, The Complete Guide to the Discovery Call. And he is the CIO of Madaka Investments. Mario, thank you for joining us.
Hello. Good to be here. Good of you to invite me since we had you on our podcast last week.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun recording that, really diving into private equity and some of the ins and outs there. And I'd love to get into your story, your background, because I think the audience would really appreciate some of the nuances that you work with today. But I hit a couple of the highlights. I'd love to hear a little bit more about you.
Yeah. Well, my story begins in what probably your listeners, maybe the little bit older ones, know as former Yugoslavia. So when I was very young, and I'm quite old as per my gray hair, not that old. No, I grew up in former Yugoslavia. Then whatever happened in the 90s was war and all of that. Lasted for several years, and then beginning of 2000 in my 2000s, in my early 20s, a good buddy of mine ran like exchange program, like work and travel to the United States. So I spent like 3 years in US, mainly near Houston area. If any Houston listeners, I spent a lovely year in League City, in the very suburbs of Houston, and then two years in San Jose. So then after that I came back to Serbia. I lived in Berlin for a while, then came back, and then now residing in Berlin. That's kind of my living history, I would say. Yeah, a little bit. And then
Absolutely.
as for work, I've been in sales my entire life, right? So mainly as an executive for the past, 17, 18 years. I got 4 companies from 1 to 10 million ARR, and I got 1 company to 100 million as a CRO. But whenever I ran teams, I always loved developing people. So I just got into every possible coaching program that I could find, just to be a better coach, to develop better people, better leaders, better managers. So I have all of the NLP and PCM and the art and science of coaching. And last year I worked 1 year with Professor Robert Hargrove. So, there's a lot of these things.
That's fantastic. And now you're based in Berlin, you said, right?
Yes. Correct.
Excellent. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about, to take a company from 2 million to 10 is a big deal, right? That's a big jump. I would love to hear kind of what your experiences were that maybe you had in common with some of those companies that you got up to 10. And then what was different between the one that you took from beyond that up to 100 million? Was there something really special or different about what was done there?
Well, so the company that I took to 10 was, to 100. I would say it was a very unique set of circumstances. I would say a little bit more luck than I was actually good. but I don't complain. I have it on my resume. It's good. We basically sold high end. I don't want to say they're not kitchen appliances, but like pots, pans, and stuff for kitchen. We sold it into restaurants and hotels, but it was kind of a special coating made out of titanium, where what restaurants and hotels spends like a fortune per year on new pots and pans, and the deal with Teflon. If you scratch a little bit, it becomes poisonous, and then you have to throw it away. Like, so instead of just using like a $30-$40 pan, we sold it for like a huge price, the titanium ones. And what we would do, we would get in. I would kind of cook just like basic, like chicken breasts, right? But I would use a fork, and then I would do this, and it would do nothing, like you cannot damn it, because titanium. So I just had I had a really good price from the manufacturer, and I had 3 excellent distributors, and I had like one hell of a sales force.
Nice.
So that was kind of the we never did any marketing. Like, I didn't have a marketing department. The only thing that I had was just someone creating collateral for salespeople to use. I just had people scheduling meetings, guys traveling, and we did this all in Southern and Eastern Europe. Like, that's it. Like, we never went anywhere from there.
Okay, so excellent product. You found a strong product market fit. You found
it was crazy, because we would come in, and I would talk to the chef, and then I would get people from either procurement or whoever we made we talked to, and they just say, hey, let us just show you. It's like 10-15 minutes. Just cook the chicken breast, which takes 7.5 minutes to cook. Season it a little bit. We didn't use even oil, or just tiny bit of olive oil or stuff like that. And they were just like my product demo was basically, well, my guys did that, was basically cooking.
That's great.
That was product demo. And then it was just a matter of how much stuff do you want to order. Because I know for a fact a lot of these hotels and restaurants that are still operational still use even after 15 years. So,
wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really strong product. You found the right way to get in front of the people and demonstrate it. You talked about the team that you had. At what point did you join the company before that 100 million? Like, where were they?
Very early on. Very early on. I was maybe salesperson 2 or 3 or 4 or something.
Okay.
Like that. Yeah. So
perfect.
very, but even before that, I always say this, I did have leadership experience, which is all it was. I became a manager, a VP sales of a company that had maybe 12 or 14 salespeople, and I did my absolute best to destroy that company, which I did very effectively. Annihilate. Like, every salesperson left because I was a jerk and an asshole. But I was a kid. I was in my mid-20s. I didn't know better. I didn't have anyone to teach me. Which leads me to a very interesting story right there. Like, I have a good buddy, and he won't be listening to this because his English is non-existent. From Serbia. So what we did when him and I met, we would download different audiobooks, right? About leadership, about leading people, about sales, because there was none of it where I was growing up, like zero stuff. And then what we would do is we would take a computer, we would burn it on a CD. So CDs, I don't know, you remember, so I don't know about your audience. CDs were these round things that held information on it. So we would take a CD with, like, I don't know, hours and hours of audiobooks, and we would go into the office and literally stayed up until every night, 2 or 3 a.m., just listening to it, taking notes and saying, okay, how do we apply to this? How do we apply it? How do we apply it? And we did that for months. And this is how we learn. This is how we learn to sell. And this is how we learn to lead people. Basically by just sitting, burning the midnight oil, and just staying up with it. We would order a big pizza, 50 centimeters. We got really fat at that point.
But you got really smart at the same time, too.
That was the trade-off.
I love it. Yeah, digging into that and really like having that hunger for learning and growing is important. And were you a teen at this point? This was in your teens or early 20s?
No. Early 20s.
Early 20s. Yeah, which is fantastic, right? Because now you're actually
mid 20s. Right?
Yeah, so you're trying to apply it.
Yeah, but I'm telling you this story because I've since led so many teams after, right? As a VP sales or CRO or even fractional. And people, like, I always brag, whatever that means. And you and I talk that I read about 50 books every year, right? Even still, like from 2005 and 2006. And everyone says, whoa, that's an achievement. Right? The people today don't have the hunger for knowledge, don't have the hunger to grow, and to make matters worse, and you and I can have an entire episode on this, are the large language models that we've been presented with, are they making young generations dumber? Because they now have do a SWOT analysis, plan me a meeting, write me a business plan, and all of those things, right?
Yeah.
So, but that's, I think, another discussion we can have. For me, like when I had a team, this was when I was 40. So this was like pre-pandemic, right? A little bit. Like my team struggled with cold calling. So then I did it. Like I have maybe between 20 and 25,000 hours on the phones, right? So yeah,
it's a lot of hours.
Not even joking.
And that's not coaching. That's actually picking up the phone and making
me pounding the phones.
Wow.
But I had a team that was really struggling with cold calling, and I didn't know what to do because I was trying to coach them how I did it. And then I began to struggle with them, it was what it was. And then I found a Discord channel of these crazy maniacs that did live cold calling every Wednesday night. And then I would spend my Wednesdays from 10 in the evening to, 11 or 12 on Discord, just listening to them doing cold calls, doing rebuttals, doing the openers, everything.
Wow.
Yeah, it's still in my 40s. And then I would take notes and I would take it to my team, and we would work it through. I would say that it's not the work habits, it's not the discipline, even maybe not the thirst for knowledge, but today's younger generation just kind of have everything at their fingertips. So there is no incentive to learn.
Next year's growth targets aren't going to build themselves, and guesswork isn't a strategy. Midgame Consulting's annual sales planning guide is built for CROs of high-growth, high-impact companies who want to use the latest frameworks and templates that build an integrated sales plan to start the new year off right. It's free and available for download. Just go to salesplansuccess.com. That's salesplansuccess.com. Yeah. That makes sense. It's easy to go into ChatGPT or whatever and have that pull those pieces together. But there is a lot of value in understanding how to do those things without those tools, because then those tools, yes, just make it easier, but you know what a good output is and what isn't when you've done it, right? Yeah. Unless you actually do it, that output can be terrible and not get you anywhere. And you actually have to tweak it. You have to make it human, right? It has to work when you're talking to somebody. And I think you started to hit on this too. Everybody has their own I think, way of presenting and way of being successful in a way that's authentic to them. And to move from an individual contributor role where you're hitting the phones all the time to now coaching a team, you kind of tiptoed into it a little bit, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about what that transition was like and how you made that move from what worked for you to helping your team with what worked for them.
Well, it happened very early on. The aforementioned company that I destroyed, I didn't work with people, right? So I was just this annoying ass manager, just demanded results and basically not caring whether or not my people are successful. Didn't have the support from the C level, didn't have the support for admin. So when I quit and I joined another company, so this is end of my 20s, I decided then and there that I would take care of every single person because I kind of learned, I would say I learned my lesson. Well, I was lucky to learn that lesson very early on in my career. You have to work with the people. You have to coach them. You have to take care of them. So and then every single team that I led, I also, like, I know a lot of managers, and even in a little bit smaller companies that you have where the VP sales has, like, just 10 people. He's not the actual VP sales. He's more of a sales manager, right? They do like pipeline reviews or career adjustments or whatever it is, right? Well, I never did those. What I did instead, I would do coaching with my team. I would do team coaching, and then I would do individual ones, right? But this did this kick early on with every engagement, and even today when I get tapped, either as a fractional, right, or as you met me as a coach and a consultant, I just get my hands dirty. Like, I would, when I get an engagement, I would just work with whatever team. Like, we would work on a very specific deals with them. Like, hey, show me emails, send me the discovery call that you did, and so on and so on, right? So I learned this lesson very early on.
Yeah. It's interesting because there are different types of sales leaders. Some of them are very hands-off and want to stay more on the strategic side of things and have a hard time rolling up their sleeves and getting into the details. And then there are others that really love getting into the details and working with their reps on an individual basis, deal by deal, message by message, whatever it happens to be, in order to get things moved across. I've seen a lot of success with that latter type of sales rep. Was that something that you purposely set out to do early on, or did that just kind of come natural in your transition from being an individual contributor to a leader?
No, it was very intentional. I just didn't. At that specific point, but that was a very painful experience for me. Getting to be the best sales guy and then promoted to like a VP, head of sales, taking 12, 13 people, and then just everyone leaving and only 2 people stayed. That was like a painful awakening for me, right? It was a really painful experience because I had to look really, really deep into my soul. Like, what the hell did I do wrong? Right?
Yeah.
So it was very intentional after that.
Yeah. There are a lot of companies that will, I think, naturally take whoever the best salesperson is and promote them to being a sales leader, which is such a mistake in
The Peter principle.
So many cases. That may work in accounting or in other areas of the company where you take the best accountant and you make them the accounting manager. You could probably get away with that. But when you're talking about really the tip of the spear for the company, the sales team, the one that really drives who gets paid at the end of the day because they're bringing in the revenue, right? The the margin for error is so small, yet so many companies try to make that move of the best rep to the manager. It sounds like you wanted to be that manager. You did the self-reflection and the growing to become that. Have you seen that from companies, and what have you,
No,
what has your experience been
definitely.
there?
It's very rare to see a manager slash director slash VP sales, even CROs coaching their direct reports.
Mm,
It's mostly just they report to me. We talk a little bit about the strategy. Show me this, show me that, and that's it. Like I've
yeah.
seen maybe a handful of people doing that, but it's such a vital part. It is such a vital part of the role, and we kind of forgotten that. We've
Yeah.
forgotten that if you're a CRO and you're leading and your team is client success, marketing, and sales, then whoever reports to you, you are responsible not just for their performance, but for their development.
Yep.
And that's how I approached it every single time, right? Because then those people will take that and work with their people and work with their people and work with their people. And then you create an organization where everyone learns and everyone is developing everyone else. And that's a very beautiful place to work. And when your guys or gals don't say, fuck it, I hate Mondays because I gotta go to work, then something is not quite okay, I would say.
Yeah. Definitely. So let's take that and go back to the building of the company up to 100 million. You started early, salesperson number 2, right?
Yeah.
You intentionally are growing this team and growing this company. Culture is going to be a major factor in the ability to get to that 100 million. I think you just touched a little bit on the type of culture that you were building, but could you maybe explain a little bit more about the other aspects of the culture that you wanted to build with that team and how that
Well,
created
for me,
itself?
that was definitely the number one thing, the learning organization. I think I don't know if I've read, but there is a book called The Learning Organization. I don't know if I read it during my tenure or I kind of stumbled across it a little bit later. But that's what I wanted to do. I always had a problem with, let's say, compensation, right? Because we encourage teamwork, what we call the role individual contributor, and then that's how we pay the reps. My reps were paid half and half team effort, half your individual performance. So I would
Mm,
say this is your part of your conversation. That the other part is gonna be, you guys are gonna split it between yourselves. So, for example, if we hit a major goal and I have 10 people, let's say, and then at the end of the year we hit our goal, I would say, all right, we have 200,000 to split among the 10 of you. So you guys decide how do you want to split this, and that's how we will do it. And then they would sit, and it is, Rich, it's fascinating how quickly the slackers, people who don't contribute, and people who are assholes leave this type of an organization.
mm-hmm.
Because if you don't contribute and you're an asshole, you will ask for like a fair share. Like you will ask for 20K for you. Let's just take this example.
Mm-hmm.
But then the team say, but you came in last or second to last. You never helped anyone. Why would we give you anything? Right? But then you have this kid who can't close shit, but he's like, oh, he's missing the quota, right? But he's working like 11, 12 hours. He's helping his teammates. He's doing all sorts of different things, the intangibles, to help the team succeed. And he's like burning in the corner and he missed his fucking quota. And maybe I, as a manager, or if I'm the manager of his manager, right? Maybe I can't see that, but the team sees it. Team sees everything.
Yeah.
So then they will say, this guy gave his heart for the team to be successful. All right, you didn't earn your individual comms, but as far as the team goes, you came in at 5 a.m. and left at 10 p.m.
Wow. That
Yeah,
had
and
to have
companies don't do that. Companies never do that.
no.
No, it's a shame they don't.
That makes a lot of sense though, because you're going to put it on the team to determine what's best. I mean, I can't imagine how heated some of those discussions went, but when you're playing the long game, that makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense, right? When you're building for 100 million and you're sitting there at 5, to start to implement that as your team is now
Yeah.
growing, you're going to end up in a good spot in the long run.
Yeah.
But I've got to imagine something like that would be really hard when today the average tenure of a CRO is about 18 months.
Oh,
So,
for sure. We've
how do
become the
you
instant noodles economy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 12 to 18 months. Frankly, it's too quick, right? People are moving around too quickly, but that then also creates this short-sighted view for hitting the numbers. And if I'm only going to be distributing comp once or twice at the end of the year because my tenure is only 12 months or 18 months, then why would I go through that process if that's my intention, right? So
Yeah.
I love the fact that you have the long-term view here in that role. I would love to hear your thoughts of how more companies can get to that point that they could have that kind of stance with their culture.
You are correct. It's a very, very much a cultural issue, right? Part of it is when you have a legacy company that's been around for 10, 15, 20 years. And then the biggest problem here, you cannot do this if you as a direct manager of all of these people not willing to develop all of them, right? Because what will happen is, let's say you have 10 reps, probably 2 of them are gonna be like monsters, right? Like but the rest won't. So you need to take care of both your elite performers, or I use the word champions. My first ever sales book was The Art and Science of Sales, or something like by Tom Hopkins. I think that's the original, like ancient. That was and the elite performers, he calls them champions. So I just kind of stuck with me. So whenever I see somebody, this is a champion, right? So I just use that term. Um, you need to take care of your champions. You need to develop them, but you also need to develop your team and make sure your team is successful. And then your champions. I actually in one of the subsequent companies, I let go of a top performer because he was an asshole.
That's setting the tone.
Well, he was number 2 out of 15, 16, something like that. He was number 2. But whenever young reps would come in, I always kind of had a program of, shadow a little bit and learn product, spend like a 1 month in client success or customer service just to learn everything. And then you go up, and then you kind of have a mentor that will kind of lead you. And I gave this guy a kid, and kid was like just big heart. Like he would leave everything. And this guy would berate him. He would like tease him. He would like do all sorts of different shit. And I told him, look, you can't do this. You gotta be a mentor. You gotta be kind of like a fatherly figure. This he doesn't know life. He's like 24, 25 years old. Like, what does he know? He knows shit. But he continued to do that. And then, but I never learned this from the kid. I learned it from other teammates. And then I did something I rarely did. I fired him in front of everyone. Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. Brutal, man. Brutal. And I told him because of this. Nuclear explosion. But the team, and I got feedback from the team later, was said, oh man, you were ruthless, but this is exactly what the team needed because the younger reps were beginning to be afraid of him.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, he was being a bully, right?
Yeah,
He was,
bully.
yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can't have that on the
Proper
team.
word. No.
No,
So
especially with new people coming in. Yeah.
yeah, especially with younglings, right? With young Padawans, they don't know. Like I always say, these kids they don't know life, not how to call a Fortune 500 executive or stuff like that. Like what do they know about life? Nothing, right? So
Right.
you need to be there for them. You need to. I learned very early on because I was a supremo jerko in my first tenure that I need to learn how to develop empathy
Hmm.
and lead with empathy. I've since learned this is called like servant leadership. I
Hmm.
just call it like leading with empathy, right? And
Yeah.
then this kid that just joined and he's like 2 weeks into his tenure, he's equally important to the senior guys. They don't have the same goals, they don't have the same skill set, they don't have the same anything, but he is important and he needs to be make sure how do we make him successful as well as everyone else?
That's
And
right.
this is where today's CROs, and maybe that's the answer to why the average tenure of a CRO is 12 to 18 months, because they don't work with a team. They come in, they first they do is rev ops. Okay, fine. Then processes the systems. Okay. But then we forget it's all about people. Indeed,
Yep.
it always was. So
Yeah. Well,
maybe that's the reason why that's the average tenure. I don't know.
yeah,
I'm
I'm sure that's a part of it for sure.
yeah,
And
yeah,
the good rev ops people understand the people aspect of the role as well and how
yeah,
important that is, especially when you look at comp plans and quotas and getting those structured the
yeah,
right way, right? It's got to be attainable but motivational, and it's that whole balancing effect that you have to be able to put yourself in the shoes of those reps and have that
yeah,
empathy if you're going to be successful, even at a rev ops
yeah.
perspective, but
I
especially
always
for a CRO.
I always hate it when I talk to sales leaders, especially the VPs, is oh, like what's your average like what's your quota for your account executives? They said it's a 1 million. All right, well out of 10, how many of them got it? Oh, none of them got it. They're like at 60, 70%. But we will increase the quota next
Yeah.
year to motivate them. And I'm like, hold on, I have questions. Number one, what will you do to make sure that they are better when it comes to their skill set in order to hit it? Two, they didn't hit 1 million. Why do you think they will hit it if you increase it? But it's a motivating factor to change. No, it's just demotivating. It's not.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going
Stop
to motivate
deluding
them to
your.
walk out the
Stop
door.
deluding yourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I'd love to take that and now transition a little bit to what it is that you're doing today. You are
Yeah.
now not just a sales leader, you're a chief investment officer. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, my own very own boutique company.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah. So the origins of that are really interesting. I saw a post on LinkedIn on how Magic Johnson made his billion. Right?
Mm.
He's one of the few athletes that's actually got to a billion. So his total earnings during his playing days, including, sponsorship deals and advertising, was around between 40 and $50 million, right? Still huge amount of money, but nothing spectacular, right? But then when you break it down, he owns Starbucks, Burger Kings, all of these boring businesses. So I go to um, dinner with a good buddy of mine from Germany, from Munich, and I've known him 25, 26 years, and he's an engineer, so not a sales guy. Engineer, project management, worked for some of the largest Silicon Valley companies, worked for Asus, and so on. And I tell him this story, and he says, "Well, I have a buddy who's a CEO of 100 companies, all very boring, in Munich." And I'm like, what did you just say to me? Yeah, yeah. And then we kind of get into, okay, so well, let's do a little bit of research. This was kind of end of last year, beginning of this year, right? And then we discovered that in Germany, there's going to be 750,000 companies up for sale because of no succession. Subsequently, I learned that there's going to be about 2 million in Japan and over 3 million in US. Yeah. All of these boring ass Main Street companies that I would never work in. They're not sexy, but they generate a ton of cash.
Mm.
And these are companies ran, by boomers, so people who are, in their late 60s, early 70s, and they want to retire, right?
Yep.
So we began looking, and we kind of started to analyze, okay, what would be the best financial criteria that we gotta look? What is the cash flow? What is the EBITDA? And then just began learning about all of these things expressly, I would say. How to run due diligence, how to do this, how to do that. All sorts of different things. And me being a bookworm, two big stacks of M&A books right there. Everything from private equity, due diligence, valuation, LBOs, mastering the M&A, the art of M&A, and so on, right? Mm-hmm. So we began looking, and we talked. Well, we looked at over 350 companies so far that are within our financial criteria. We talked with, I probably know almost every broker in Germany by now. Maybe not, but I know like probably over 100 of them. And then we talked with a fair amount of owners. We met with one, and the one that we met, we decided to go ahead and try to buy his company.
Are your go-to-market teams built for scale, or are they stuck in chaos? At Midgame Consulting, we turn high-growth challenges into operational wins. From sales strategy to CRM to process optimization, we help you get it right so that your organization can grow as your top line grows. Let's transform today's change into tomorrow's success. Visit midgameconsulting.com. That's midgameconsulting.com. Oh, excellent. So tell me a little bit more. You've got some financial criteria that you're looking for. Ultimately, what is the goal? Is this a cash flow play? Is this take the cash flow, buy more, and build from there?
Correct. Yeah, this is a pure pure cash flow play. Nothing exciting about these companies. Nothing extraordinary. This is your everyday company that you see when you walk out of your, well, for you guys in US, when you drive out of your home, because in Europe we walk, you guys drive.
Yeah,
that's a little joke. But just your everyday businesses, right? Like your cash generating businesses that I would never. Like I have my operator guy. This is our front partner. He will be running them, as a GM, as a CEO, and that's it basically, right? Yeah. Nothing spectacular. Nothing. Look, we at the very beginning we had a rule that if the product excites us and we would want to do it, that company is not for us. Like we won't be chasing it, right? Because most likely we will try to get it, and then we will probably overpay, and then.
That's really smart. I love that. And with technology the way that it has been going, the focus has definitely over-indexed on new tech, on AI, right? On those areas, not necessarily the dry cleaner or, the places like that everybody needs, right? Everybody's going to continue to go to those places no matter what happens with AI, or at least in the foreseeable future. Right. So there is a real value there, but because it's not an overcrowded space, you probably get some good prices on some of those opportunities.
Yeah. we decided very early on to go to, either dry cleaning or building maintenance or HVAC or something like that. What we discovered is that the ones that were in our revenue range, just private equity just is beginning to gobble them up. And
Yes.
then they are paying, even in Germany, they're paying higher multiples. So multiples of EBITDA that we are comfortable walking into. So we quickly shifted focus to something else, right? And then the current company, I can tell you this when we stop recording, but the current company makes about 8 million in revenue, between 8 and 9 every year. They have like between 11 and 12% EBITDA. So between 800 and 900K EBITDA, and we got it for 2.8 multiple.
Yeah,
So
that's pretty good.
2.4 million.
Yeah, that's solid.
Yeah.
Solid. Yeah. Interesting. I love the approach, and it's like when everybody's going in one direction, you try to go the other direction with this, and it seems to be doing
when
well
they
for you.
zig, you zag.
That's right.
That's always the case. Like we said, all right, they're like manufacturing in Germany is like pretty big, right? So let's go after CNC, right? So companies that either produce CNC machines or produce parts for CNC machines or anything CNC. But we discovered that there are several companies that are gobbling them up and the multiples are high. Okay, then fuck. Well, let's go after wholesalers of, chemicals like cleaning, window cleaning for, kitchen detergent, stuff like that, right? Like your normal, like boring stuff. And then we also saw that the multiples were getting high. So, okay, no, let's just move on from there. And then I think we now found a niche that is still on tap that we want to get into, and that is still kind of on the lower end of multiple. But in the end, man, when you are trying to buy a company, what we always say, like my first question always is, tell me how you built this company. Tell me what this company did for you, your family, for everyone involved, right? Like talk to me about, because they spend like 30, 40 years in this. Like this company is their life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And we always say, like, if you don't want us, we won't even change the name of the company. Like, we won't touch it. We just want to come in and continue your legacy. And usually when we begin, which is actually what we mean, like, we are not insincere. We want to continue the legacy of all of these companies. And then when we say that and we actually mean it, then the price negotiation is much easier.
Yeah. There's when people put in that much time into growing a company, making it really a part of who they are, they want to see it continue just as much for themselves as for the people that they've brought in. So yeah, if you're willing to do that, as opposed to some other companies, PE firms, et cetera, they probably have a playbook that they're running with and may not care as much about keeping that legacy going and are probably more interested in the EBITDA in 5 years.
And you learn that people who help this owner build a company, people are with him like 7, 8, 10, 15 years. And he cares what happens to these people, right? Now, that being said, it's so much easier to fire people in US than in Germany. So in Germany, it's very difficult to fire people, but that makes it much, in my opinion, it makes it much easier, at least for me, because I don't want to fire any of the work. Like I don't want to increase my EBITDA by firing 10% of the workforce just to increase EBITDA. I want to help them grow. I've helped them want to become better at their jobs, whatever their job is. And then the entire company will be better off for it. But because of how private equity works, it's very easy to view everyone as a number. And when you look at people as a number, it's very easy to detach yourself from reality.
Yeah, and you get away from the culture that they have built, or in the case of the
Yeah.
company that you worked with, the culture that you had built, and that is
Yeah.
a critical aspect of all of this.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mario, this was great. I really appreciated the conversation. Just like the last time we spoke on Game of Funds, the time just
Yeah.
flies whenever we're having these conversations.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that people can find you to learn
Yes.
more about what you're doing. How do they do that?
Two ways you can, if you liked whatever I was telling you, and you need either a executive sales coach or a fractional CRO, hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm sure, Rich, you'll provide my link, or
Yes.
just shoot me an email at mario@revenuearchitects.io. So shoot me up, and if you want to get your company to 100 million, come and find me.
That's right. Yeah, and we will include all of the links in the show notes as well. So, Mario, again, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for joining us on the Midgame Mindset. If today's episode sparked a new idea or helped shift your perspective, share it with someone who's ready to grow. Subscribe, leave a review, and keep playing the game. With the right mindset, the best moves are still ahead. Until next time, keep changing the game.